Right now, we're actually debating on what is the next insurance product we're going to stand up. So right now, we offer business owners general liability and professional. We're exploring some other lines, which could be like supplementary to those, or also we're looking at excess surplus and admitted paper, which is a completely different direction. So it's either we kind of like cater into the current policyholders that we have to offer them more things, or we can go and add additional product lines.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, this is Max Pittman from WriteForMe, and you're listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas. Bobbie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Max. Excited to have this discussion with you.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, let's dive in. First let's begin with like who is Coterie, right? You guys are in the insurance space. And I know there's some minutia, to who you guys are as an organization and who you work with, but at a high level. The company itself has been around since 2018, so you're coming up on 5 years, which is great. You offer a diverse set of insurance options, from general liability to personal liability, and definitely more of a focus in business owners and those. Dive in really quick into maybe who you guys are focused in on, and like what the specialty might be there for Coterie.
Yeah, so Coterie was founded by David McFarland, our CEO, to bring speed, simplicity, and service to the insurance industry. When I joined the industry right out of college, it was very antiquated. There were still like handwritten applications coming in. I'm gonna be honest, I was still getting carbon copy paper like stuff in the mail from agents to make changes to policies. So really what David did is he stood up Coterie as an MGA that's operating as a full stack carrier. And it's an insurtech carrier that is funded by investors. So we are really pushing hard for growth. And what's fun about our product is that I think we figured out the secret sauce to the speed, simplicity, and service for small commercial lines. So excited to talk a little bit more about it because there's a lot of depth underneath what that means. Yeah,
absolutely. Like, tell me, I guess, Bobbie, right, as the chief growth officer, what does MGA stand for? I'm an outsider, not familiar with that term. You mentioned MGA. What does that mean?
It's a managing general agency. So the best way I can explain it, the Cliff Notes version, is we're an agency that is given underwriting authority by carriers that we work with. So they basically give us their paper to write policies on, and we handle everything from claims to filings to rate making, and all of the operations is handled by Coterie. We're just using their paper and their backing.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Very, very cool. Interesting. The reason why I ask is, as an outsider, like I'm always kind of curious into some of the terminology that, I have a lot of my own terminology from a business development perspective, and, lots of acronyms I need to know. So I haven't heard MGA, so I appreciate you sharing that. And I want to dive into a few things you shared, but before entrepreneurs like yourself, and also lots of sales and marketing leaders. So I love it if honestly you could maybe dive into like, a little bit about yourself, Bobbie. Like, our community is definitely of more like-minded growth officers like yourself. So like, what are some of the things you're focused on, and why did you end up joining Coterie?
Yeah, so I joined the insurance industry straight out of college. I spent the first greater half of my career, I would say 60 to 70% of my career was actually in commercial lines underwriting. And then there was a research project that I was put on when I was an underwriting leader, and it was how is technology going to impact distribution within property and casualty insurance, and specifically on the independent agency channel. And so it was fun. I learned a ton, and that was when the word insurtech kind of actually became a word that started to be tossed around within our industry. And I'm like, okay, this underwriting thing was fun, and I learned a lot, but it feels like there's going to be a lot more disruption and a lot more innovation coming on the distribution and growth side. So I flipped over to marketing and sales at that point. I had worked for traditional carriers before joining Coterie, and I made the switch. I guess I've been there a year and a half now, to startup world, just because I saw the need to drive change and innovation, and that's really hard to do in a company that's over 100 years old. And it's a lot easier to do in a company that's less than 5 years old. So we're really pushing hard. And I honestly think that we're changing the paradigm in how small commercial lines businesses transacted in the market.
Very interesting. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about like who is that ideal client. You mentioned small to medium-sized businesses.
Yeah.
So tell me just a little bit about like maybe is there a specific industry focus you guys might work within, or is it basically just kind of the size of business based on employee size and revenue size?
Yeah, so it's both, Max. Like I would say we have two target customers. One is our end policyholder, the other is our distribution partners that we work with. When I think about, you know, the actual who the insurance policy is written for, it's that micro and small commercial lines policyholder. We are pretty generalist in our appetite. So, you know, our largest classes of business on like a high level, we write a lot of like artisan contractors. We do a lot of retail office space type of business. We also write some restaurants, cafes, those types of things. But one of the things that's unique to our appetite that isn't typical of a traditional carrier or your mainstream carriers that have the big commercials on TV are we'll take startups, we'll take folks that haven't been in business very long. Most of our policyholders have like 5 or less employees. They have, you know, pretty low revenue, and traditionally that business has been kind of ignored because it costs a lot to maintain the unit economics around writing one policy for a carrier or even an agent. There's not a lot of margin there. So we've done two things. We're using third-party data to really kind of drive into an automated underwriting engine to take a lot of the people out of it. In the past, an agent might have to fill out an application or go into a company portal and then get a quote and then bind it with the company. With us, it's just a name and an address. We pull in all the information we need. We return a bindable quote. Our average time is less than 3 minutes right now to go from quote to bind to issue. So what my pitch to agents is we can actually help you make a buck off of writing these small commercial lines clients, and the pitch to policyholders is like you have speed and you have simplicity and service in your insurance product. So it's kind of a win-win-win for all three of us.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So it sounds like that's probably a bit of like the secret sauce then, like why a customer, you know, or small business in this case would potentially choose you over obviously the big major carriers, but maybe other, you know, smaller, well, not smaller, but I'd say other, you know, insurance tech companies that are out there, right? It seems like it's obviously easy and processes are fast, right? So like, why would someone like go with you guys over the competition?
It's going to be the speed and simplicity and the service piece. If you think about a typical artisan contractor, the first time they recognize a need for insurance is probably someone, whether that's a general contractor or someone they're doing business with, is asking for a certificate of insurance. So show me your proof of insurance. And if that's like on the fly or the job's tomorrow, or maybe they even started it yesterday, they need that certificate very quickly. And if you were go to a traditional carrier, it might take you a week or two, at least a few days to get that accomplished. If Coterie is a market that your agent has access to, then it literally is minutes, right? So that's the value prop. And what's been fun is my role as Chief Growth Officer has been, I'm not gonna say it's been easy because there's always challenges, but the product market fit is there, and actually the demand for our product is greater than the supply we have right now. So we're really building up our automations and really trying to, you know, get ourselves in a position where we can like open the floodgates, and I can tell my growth team to stop tapping the brakes and hit the gas and let's go hard. Yeah.
You mentioned the automations. Like, what piece of the pie would automation bring to the table, and like where would the focus be for that? Is that from like a demand gen perspective?
Yeah, it's all of the above. So if you think about a traditional insurance sales team for a carrier, they're typically like, you have folks in the field, maybe like, inside call center type of a sales team. For the book of business that we currently write, we're operating at about a quarter of the sales team that we would need, at least a quarter of the sales team that we would typically need to do. So we're using a lot of automations on the digital side for agency engagement. And then we just have some really large partnerships that are strategic to us too, where we do have account managers that are kind of managing the I would say the leadership and the strategic vision, and then we're using the automations on the back end for engagement and continued growth with those partners.
Interesting. So definitely sounds like you guys are at like a big kind of phase, right? Or I guess the phase would be is like we're potentially going to be ramping things up here very, very quickly. Like, what are some of the challenges that you see and that like where you guys are today and getting to, I don't know what the next step would look like, but like, what is some of those bigger challenges that you guys are facing?
Yeah, so right now there's a lot of handoffs between just policy maintenance is what I would say, Max. So like after the policy is issued, what are all those things that need to be changed on a policy, whether it's, billing information that needs to be changed, or an update to, a new additional insured endorsement needs to be added, or maybe an insured changes locations. So all of those things we're working on automation on those day 2 transactions. So it can become a lot more self-service and a lot lower cost model for our agents and for Coterie. So we really need to, like I said before, kind of figure out how do we make a buck on these really small policies, right? And so that does 2 things. One, it gets us in a point where we can remain profitable, and 2, it also puts us in a position to continue to offer competitive, affordable insurance for the policyholders that we serve. So we're building in a lot of service automations right now, in addition to what I would say like the relationship management and the business development automations that we have on the growth team.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Helping. It sounds like where you guys are is like obviously continuing to build out the technology and tools and sales, in pipelines, right? Opening that up as well, but also, how are we optimizing the business for, the company to remain profitable and continue to grow revenue on some of these, opportunities that may not be like the big opportunities because the companies are a lot smaller, right? So what did that look like during COVID, right? Just kind of curious, like what was the flavor? What was life like during the COVID years? Because that was not too long ago, but still, like how did you guys like grow and scale during that time?
Yeah, so I actually joined, I would say, coming out of COVID, but I think what happened for Coterie during that point in time is you did see a big increase in like home-based businesses, right? Like folks who couldn't go to work or decided that they wanted to work from home and they started up their own businesses. So there was this influx of all of these little small businesses that had a harder time finding insurance, and Coterie had positioned themselves very luckily. I think the timing was perfect to be able to take on insurance for some of these small businesses. So, and that trend has been continuing. Like we are seeing a lot more folks being like called back into the office, like, hey guys, that was fun, now you have to come back in. And they're like, nope, I'm going to do my own consulting thing over here, or I'm going to start my own photography business, or whatever that might be. And so we have that solution for that, which a lot of, like I said before, a lot of traditional carriers aren't comfortable with startups. Like a brand new business starting up, there's no loss history. They base their pricing off of what were the claims previously. And so we're actually, my lead data guy, which this is fun because Max, you and I were talking about baseball earlier. He comes actually from the sports data side of things. So he was doing a lot of sports data. Baseball was a specialty. So we have some fun debates. But he is actually like using all of these third-party data sources and pieces of data that I didn't even think about when I was at the underwriting desk that are becoming predictive to future loss. So we are predicting future loss and not necessarily using all that historical data that a traditional carrier has used, which is fun.
Yeah.
And my boss, my CEO, is an actuary. So he gets really nerdy when it comes to all of the fun predicting losses and rate revisions, and it's just, yeah, it's a fun company to be a part of.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounds like it for sure. I mean, from the outside looking in, you guys are a modern, seems like a modern like digital insurance company, catering to the needs of small to medium sized businesses, and the products seems like are really tailored insurance products, and the services that you guys provide are really designed to, obviously provide, comprehensive coverage and kind of simplify, the insurance process itself, maybe the buying process, or even like the, establishing that I have this insurance and making that very easy. And then, but the big advantage that I heard early in the conversation is that you guys have the opportunity as an agency to do all the underwriting authority in-house, which I assume makes life a lot easier for your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that we're having a lot of fun right now, working on refinements, both on like, how do we make sure that we remain profitable? Because we have, a traditional company might have a team of 50 underwriters that's looking at each of these risks individually. So we have this engine that we're running it through, and it's accepting risks or it's declining risks. And so there's things that we find on a daily basis. We're like, oh, well, we should probably like tighten that up a little bit over there so we don't have a loss ratio problem in the future. But then our data team's also saying like, oh, but there's this big opportunity over here where you guys should probably open up, because the data is telling us there's going to be, more profitability in this class or in this region. And so we're having a lot of fun, kind of, I would say, more portfolio underwriting on a commercial lines side, which typically is more of a personal lines approach to underwriting. But I think we've figured it out at the basic level, and it's going to become even more sophisticated as we continue to iterate.
Is there not to kind of pivot and switch subjects, but like, I'm just curious, like, is there a platform or, not like a SaaS product you guys have, but like, tell me, I guess, a little bit like how the customer interacts with Coterie Insurance.
Yeah, well, so I can talk about SaaS in a little bit, but so Max, our goal is to be basically within the experience that our agents want, wherever they want to transact business. And so if that means they want to transact business digitally with lead gen within their operations, we want to be there too. So there's actually several ways that we ingest business. We have partnerships with what I would call distribution enablers. So there are platforms that are basically comparative raters for small commercial lines business. I think we're on every one that I am aware of that exists in the marketplace. So any agent that's using those comparative raters could have access to Coterie. We also have, it's a new product that we've stood up called My Digital Agency. So an agent basically can white label the experience of Coterie within their own website. So if they're driving traffic to their agency website, the policyholder can get an instant quote and bind an issue on those websites as well. And then we have direct API integrations with some more digitally enabled agencies, as well as just a dashboard our agents can access and type in the name and address and get that quote back to.
Gotcha. So when it comes to, I love the idea of like an agency or individual agent white labeling, the Coterie experience on their own website. Sounds like then there is, for you, a focus on, going after these, not necessarily like the end users or, the small to medium sized businesses, but actually a focus on going after agents as well to leverage your services.
Yeah. And agents actually, like all of our new business today is transacted through independent agents. And what I am seeing a fun trend in is there a few years back, and it was starting to come to fruition kind of in the COVID era, where embedded insurance started to become this term that people were talking about. And there's been a lot of players that, have been working with, I would say, adjacent type of, companies to embed an insurance buying experience alongside of theirs. But what happened when the economy kind of took a turn is we saw all of those businesses say, yeah, like that was kind of a cute, pilot that we did with insurance, but we need to focus on core and really focus on our core business on its own. But what I am seeing, which is fun, is agents start to like push their experience into embedded more embedded type of experiences. So it's really not like, I don't see Coterie really pushing hard as leading in embedded, but we are enabling our agents and our distribution partners to work in that embedded space, and we're working strategically together on how can we make sure that this is successful. And my digital agency is one of those pieces.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, from an outside perspective, it just seems like this is a really interesting and fast-paced, fast-paced way for you guys to like get to the next level. Like, how are you thinking about like growing and scaling? Is it, an approach to more individual, agents? Is it, a continuation of scaling with your partners? Maybe a little bit of all of the above. Like, what is kind of the next year going to look like for you guys?
Yeah, right now we're actually debating on what is the next insurance product we're going to stand up. So right now we offer business owners general liability and professional. We're exploring some other lines, which could be like supplementary to those, or also we're looking at excess surplus and admitted paper, which is a completely different direction. So it's either we kind of like cater into the current policyholders that we have to offer them more things, or we can go and add additional product lines to basically be able to provide insurance to those who we maybe had to decline over the last several years. So we're having some debates there, but there'll definitely be a new line that's introduced through Coterie in 2024. And then a really high degree of attention and resources going into the service piece. We found an incredible product market fit with simplicity and speed. And right now we're really trying to solve for how do we offer a world-class service experience that has automation where it should be, and then but human touch points where they matter most. And that's the same, I would say, approach that we take to our relationship management with our distribution partners is like, let's automate and make as much digital as we can, but then we also understand that there are certain points within those relationships and just the process of working with our partners where the human touch in the relationship is important.
Yeah, so definitely the people, processes, platform, products, focus. Yes. That makes a lot of sense. Like, where would you put like an emphasis then? Like, is it potentially on like a net new, right? And finding net, net new agents or, industries, to go after for potential products, or is there a focus more on like the retainment and continuous customer service to continue to grow out those current accounts?
Yeah. I mean, early on, it was very, very focused on net new max just because we were so young and we needed to grow, right? But the true profitability within any insurance operation comes into the retention of employees or not employees, employees too, but retention of the policyholders and the continuous flow of business from your current distribution partners. So there's been a little bit more emphasis put on retention, both from a policyholder and just an agency relationship management standpoint, but the net new is always going to be important, right? So it's just like, what does that balance look like? And our renewal book's becoming a much larger portion of our monthly written premium. And so, and to retain a piece of business costs a lot less more than to go get a new one. And typically loss ratios on renewals run anywhere from 10 to 20 points better than new business. So there's a lot of reasons why we should put more attention to retention, but the pipeline still has to be healthy. We still need to add net new, right? We're still young, growing, scaling organization. So it's just, we're really trying to figure out what that balance looks like, and strategically, how do we approach that as we finish out this year and go into 2024.
Yep, I love it. So it seems like there's it's a customer centric approach, and you have a team there and a customer support, there to help assist obviously your current clients with, I'm assuming, questions, concerns they may have, but also like a smooth and personalized experience to continue to win their premiums and their ongoing business. But also, I think that what I'm hearing is a bit of, well, first, like flexibility potentially, and enabling businesses to customize and get the right insurance policies to match their evolving requirements. and adapt to maintaining, I guess, coverage as well for the current clients as they grow and expand. So you guys have been around since 2018 too. So as we kind of like think about, okay, the next year or so, right, how is marketing going to play into the ability to like help continue to grow and expand? Is there an emphasis on any specific digital channels, or your own teams to reach out to more agents, right, to potentially be white labeling your services? Like, what is the from a growth and marketing perspective, where is that focus going to be?
Yeah, we'll really be pushing our My Digital Agency experience in the latter half of this year. We literally just launched it out of, I would say, beta and into the market, so agents can come and kind of play around and see what that looks like. But that'll be a huge push for us because it's a really cool tool. There's so many ways that agents could use to deploy that. And I think in some cases, Max too, will be a really great partner in helping our agents understand, like, what can they actually do with this? And this is what my agency does today with lead gen. How can we bring my digital agency in and leverage that as a tool to help drive, mutual growth? That's a big piece of it. The other one is just more attention, I think, on just the policy retention piece. So helping our agents and our policies understand what offerings that we do have when it comes to self-service. What type of, one of the things I'm really excited about is having our data team be able to identify a coverage need change, because the data tells us something changed with the risk before we, the agent or the insured even tells us about it. We're not there yet, but that's something we're striving towards. So I'm hoping that we'll get to a point too where we can start to suggest coverage enhancements just because of something within the business has changed. So that will be a big push for us too. But then just also, I think some of that mutual marketing with our agents and Coterie. I don't know. I think half the time when I ask someone who their insurance is with, they tell me what their agent's name is and not who their carrier name is. And half the time it's the other way around and they don't even know who their agent is. So how do we bring an awareness of, what is the Coterie value for policyholder, and what is the agent? How does the agent bring value for the policyholder? So that's something we've been talking a lot about too. Gotcha.
Well, it definitely sounds like, one of the strengths that Coterie is committed to is leveraging data and technology, to underwrite your policies accurately and also like efficiently.
Yes.
Is a big advantage. And so I love that you guys are, big on data and using data to be competitive in pricing, it sounds like, and also, offer faster coverage and decisions to help clients make decisions quicker as well. So I love hearing like the commitment there, and then also the commitment to thinking kind of outside the box into like how you guys can grow and expand, and also leverage software and tools to help make this process easier for everyone, it sounds like. Yeah, well, and our following on like LinkedIn is ridiculously high. It's awesome. Like, our marketing team has done such a great job of just getting the attention of, I think, the right types of folks that we need to be following. So one of the things, Max, you and I even talked about is like, how do we leverage the current content that we have, and then also build new content to keep the audience engaged and to keep Coterie top of mind. I don't have a $2 billion advertising budget like some of the, the bigger companies might have like a lizard or maybe like an emu running around on the TV. So we have to find different ways to just kind of stay in front of people and create that brand awareness. And I've been super impressed with our team and how we really worked hard to gain both just, to be noticed in the industry, but then also gain the credibility and the trust from our agency partners and our policyholders to handle their insurance needs. So it's been a fun journey. For sure. It sounds like it. I appreciate you diving into all of these different topics with me and helping to kind of educate me on Coterie. And, as we wrap things up here, I'd love it if, you can kind of tell the audience, is there anything that we haven't covered that you think that, they would want to know? And you can talk to either the agents, you can talk to the end users. I want to give you the floor to make sure if there's anything else that we haven't touched on that you think our listeners should know about. Yeah, well, I think, number one, insurance isn't sexy. And so it's a product no one wants to shop for. It's not like when I get to go shop for a new car or a new purse or something, I get really excited about it. So
Our goal at Coterie is to really like make that insurance buying process as easy and seamless and as fast as possible so you can move on and do more fun things with your life.
Love it.
Um, from an agency perspective, it's kind of the same thing, right? Like we want to make the unit economics work for everybody in this, so it's a win-win-win. But I would say not only are we like driving our industry into like, I would say newfound lands, right? And we're kind of trailblazing, but we're also helping our agents do that too. So if you're an agency that is really, you know, trying to struggle with like, well, how do I stay relevant in this age of digital transformation? You know, give me a call, like let's touch base. I think, you know, Coterie has a ton of expertise in, you know, kind of the folks that understand legacy versus where we're going and can really kind of be like a nice coach and mentor or talk through some different strategic options for agents that are looking at that. And obviously we'd also love to win a contract and write business with you too. But yeah, and then if folks just want to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, Bobbie Collies. Just look me up, and you can also find me, I think, through Coterie Insurance website, coterieinsurance.com. There's also like awesome producer resources page out there. We're an open book, so if any agent really wants to explore appetite or all of our offerings, it's not behind an agent portal that you need a login for. You can just go in and take a look and find out who we are. We're very open and transparent with that.
Love it. That's great. Yeah, everyone go check out Coterie Insurance. That's Coterie insurance.com. Obviously they're, you know, big forward-thinking digital insurance provider, you know, focusing on small to medium-sized businesses. And obviously they have an online platform, very data-driven in their underwriting process, and, you know, can get very customized with you. And it seems like they have a awesome team here. So definitely if this is a need or something you want to explore, definitely reach out to Bobbie and Coterie Insurance. Bobbie, thank you so much for being here today, you know, sharing a little bit about the story about Coterie and who you guys are and who you work with and how you guys are, you know, separating yourselves in the marketplace.
Max, appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for the conversation. I definitely feel like I've learned a lot about you, and we appreciate you being here. And that wraps up another episode of our Business Ninjas podcast. Everyone, thank you so much for listening, and have a great rest of the day.